Hello, everybody. Welcome to another founders interview on Webbiquity. Today, I am joined by Davis Clark, founder and CEO at Futuremodel. Hi, Davis. How are you doing today?
Doing great. How are you, Tom?
Really good, really good. For a beautiful late fall evening or late fall afternoon here in
Yeah, no, it's
Minnesota.
beautiful.
It is nice out there. So you and I, again, originally met at a beta showcase event at Twin Cities Startup Week, and the group over there always does a great job on that. How was that event for you?
It was awesome. I grew up in the Minneapolis Twin Cities area. I went to school at the U, but shortly thereafter, I actually moved out to the Bay Area, and I was out there for about 10 years. And so I just moved recently this past year, moved back, and so it's been really exciting to kind of come full circle and to get plugged in and involved with the Twin Cities startup community. And so it was just the energy at Beta was awesome, and the collaborative sort of like feel amongst all the founders has just been really nice change of pace. So been enjoying it all.
Yeah, it really is a great community, and the folks at Beta and do a great job with that every year. Last year was a little weird because of the COVID thing, but this year they did it hybrid, and I think it worked well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about Futuremodel. If you would, sort of in just a few sentences, kind of tell us what problem or problems Futuremodel solves, kind of who it solves them for, and what makes it different, better than alternatives. What makes it special?
Yeah, so we're in the midst of a data-driven dark age. And what I mean by that is that in the past 20 years, we've made extraordinary progress in our ability to collect, store, extract data, but relatively little progress in our ability to integrate and make sense of that data. And so as things have moved into the cloud, and as our abilities to access external data sources outside of the typical enterprise source has the opportunities for that have expanded, so have the difficulties brought by the lack of progress in these other areas. And we can see this impacting both our communities in the sense that we have more open data than ever before, but no unified interface for exploring and consuming and sharing our insights on that. And then at the enterprise level, where it still takes 18 months, millions of dollars in order to implement an enterprise-wide BI system. And the moment your business changes, they still break down. And so we're seeing in both these areas, this lack of our technological achievements. And so what we're trying to do is accelerate the world's transition beyond data and toward more conscious intelligence. At the core of the problem, all modern data technologies operate on an extremely reduced fraction of human knowledge. They can't reason over stuff like events, cause and effect, processes. The fact that somebody believes something, the fact that somebody asserts something which does not make it true, the fact that something is not true. And if we're going to try to reach a new level, if our world wants to progress past this and to enable smarter communities and smarter organizations, it's extremely important that we're able to build systems that operate at a level closer to human cognition and not just data.
Exactly, and this is a problem I see out there, and I know there are some other companies trying to sort of crack that nut, if you will, of the making sense out of the data, because everybody's got, right, as you say, tons of data, but it's a matter of what's important. How do I interpret that? How do I pull out what really matters? How do I pull out what's actionable, right? What I can do something about.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And so the some of the shortfalls that we see that has happened, as far as the data technology and data vendor world goes, is that there's been very little focus or emphasis put at like what you might call the first and last miles of the BI pipeline, which is the point at which users elicit their conception of the world and into requirements that a team then goes and builds. And then at the other end of it, where that team then delivers to those same users data products that actually allow them to explore and make those decisions about their world. And so where we're different from the alternatives is that we took a really hyper-focused view at both those phases of it, and we developed a graphical interface that lets users essentially define the objects, complex events, the processes that make up their world. And then we can automate the entire end-to-end querying, integration of the data. But we actually use that same model to put it back and to reflect back to that user the same reality they defined, but we stream the data through that. So now they're exploring their data through the same sort of intuitive organizational structures that they think about their world every day, all day.
So who's your ideal customer? A B2B, B2C, big company, small company, and who do you see as probably being your champion within that company? Who's going to get excited about this and bring you into the opportunity?
Yeah, great question. And so the larger you grow as an organization, the more difficult this becomes. And so while it's been said that all modern companies will have to become data companies in order to survive. And so we could serve, companies at all sizes, especially at the smaller and medium size of it. It's really, though, at the point where you get to more than 100 employees, that things really start to break down. It's at that point that you start to move beyond hiring generalists to hiring domain specialists, experts who are going to bring a whole new level of understanding to their individual functions. And it's at that point that the communication between these groups begins to break down, and that it's all the more important to have a unified system. And so we really see ourselves as targeting those what you might call villages, cities, and nations, organizations at the 100 to 1,000, 1,000 to 10,000, and more than 10,000 employees.
And is it someone in finance, someone in IT?
Yeah. So business people, we'd say the business people. And what we mean by that are the people who are actually making the decisions, improving the business, actually using. And so it'd be business managers, analytics managers, those who might be managing data team or analyst teams who are actually doing things like, constructing compensation programs for the salespeople based on, the incentives that they've analyzed from prior years, that have possibly influenced behaviors that weren't expected, or people trying to, really re-engineer the processes through which the organization delivers whatever it's trying to deliver.
So good operations, marketing, sales, any
right.
of that.
Yeah, FP&A, service. Right. Minnesota dispatch. There's some really interesting problems going on in 911 dispatch right now, both nationally, but at the Minnesota level. And so, even organizations like that.
Interesting. Just as a bit of background, sort of a few quick things about the company. So first off, you're founded?
July 2019.
Okay. Funding rounds. Are you self-funded? Have you brought in any outside funding? What's the situation?
Yeah. So we were self-funded for the first year and a half. We raised our first pre-seed round in May of this year. And then we're excited to kick off a seed round here in the next month.
Great. And company size, anything you can say about number of employees, number of customers, anything that you're able to share?
Yeah, so we had actually released a first sort of version of the product last year, what we were calling the Looker interface. This was in partnership with Google. And we at the time had a closed beta where we spoke with roughly 30 participants in that beta and worked with them throughout that. And so now we're at about 7 people, and we had, based on the learnings from that, both from the partnership we had pursued with Google, as well as the feedback we received from those customers, we decided to basically table the Looker interface and go all in on the standalone interface. So we're in the process of finishing that up. Hopefully we'll have that first version of it done by Christmas. And then we're excited at a series of product releases that we plan for next year. Excellent.
So what inspired you to work on this particular problem? What made you say, hey, this data interface issue is something that is really something I want to spend a lot of time working on.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was actually, it's interesting to like look back on like how I got here and what brought me here. I had originally, when I was in school, I had wanted to be CIA. And so that was kind of my dream, was to join the CIA. And I was studying Arabic, and I was doing, my dream had been to walk across Afghanistan on foot. And so it was around this time. Yeah. So it was around this time that I was reading, like, in the New York Times or Wall Street Journal, an article on like Afghan poppy harvest relative to Taliban's fighting season. And I remember the journal quoting just a bunch of numbers. And I was just like, I don't remember what the number was from last year or the trends here or how this relates. And this is really interesting stuff, but where can I access this data? How can I just begin exploring this? And I started to find and discover that there's nothing you can, out there to do this sort of thing. And so that's really what got me into both data visualization as well as the startup world. And I just fell in love with both. And so over the years, I have a refined sense of outrage in that when there'll be moments where it's like I just feel like something's wrong, and it's that drives me to like begin really exploring what around that. And so over the years, I would just make my way through the data engineering side of things, the data science side of things, and I'd started building data products for business leaders, and I just would find that the tools I was giving at these different organizations they never allowed me to build the experiences that I needed to build to deliver to the end users. And so it was really, it was probably around 2018 that I was at a solar company, and I was directing their end-to-end enterprise BI system. It was a brand new system, and we were implementing Looker on GCP. And by the end of it, the Looker team, we just had put a ton of time and effort into trying to create something that the whole business could use together, an experience that everybody could understand, that was intuitive from the start. And by the end of it, the Looker team had said that they had never seen a system, a more flexible system in the field. And so it was pretty clear at that point that we were onto something, that these ideas were, that they were important. And so it was at that point that I left to found the business.
Interesting. I know we might be a little early for this, but what do you sort of see as the most promising mediums or channels for you to kind of get the word out there once you're ready to really rock and roll with this and get it out into the market?
Yeah, so we've just found we've had a ton of success with, I think it's important. And I think, often, an entrepreneur has some really big, ambitious ideas for where their company can go. But you can't just come out with a radical paradigm shift, and expect it to be taken up. You have to have, a much more focused sort of beginning. And so for us, it was about, how could we leverage existing networks, existing communities of users of different products, and possibly come out with a very specified or limited scoped version that could fix some of the failings and shortcomings in that given product or service. And what that would allow us to do is it allows us to approach these markets and say, hey, we don't want to pull you off your system. In fact, we're just trying to maximize the value you're getting from your system. And why that's been so valuable is that it both gives us the ability to access really easily these types of users, whether it's on LinkedIn job posts or whether it's in existing forums where users are talking about how to solve certain problems in a given technology. And that just gives us a really, really focused area to access these people, but then also a really natural pitch, value prop, which is, hey, make use of our stuff and maximize what you're already doing with what you have. And so we plan on doing much more of that, right? So we focus first on that looker market, but we plan on moving on from there to focusing on some of the more the ancillary communities.
Right, and a benefit of going to the forums like that is you're simultaneously educating the market and learning from the market in terms of what's going to be useful to them.
Exactly. Oh yeah. And we found the forums themselves to be gold mines of information for these exact purposes.
Exactly. So if you would finish this sentence, knowing what I know now, if I were starting over today, what I would do differently is.
Quit smoking cigarettes prior to founding the company, because that's not going to happen when you're in the thick of it. No, but seriously, I guess it's a hard question for me to answer, because for a long time, I've adopted a sort of mentality, which is like a full embrace of my failures, but also but operating from the standpoint of doing the best I can in that moment with what information I have, and then constantly learning and evolving. And so if I were to start over, I guess the only thing I'd do differently is I'd be starting from just as what inspired me to start this was 10 years of growth, of personal growth, of technical growth. I'd be starting over with an extra 2.5 years of some of the, I'd say, most rapid growth of my life.
Excellent. So thanks, David. This has been a great discussion. Final question. Where can people connect with you and learn more about Futuremodel?
Yeah, so we'd love for you to go to our website, futuremodel.io. Sign up for on our waiting list for the citizen experience, which is going to be this next release we have early next year. Follow us on LinkedIn. We have a lot of exciting news coming out in the next month, and we're really just hoping to spark a conversation with communities on what sorts of data and data problems, what sorts of social issues are most pressing and at the top of their mind. And really begin to release products that serve what the community cares and values most. And so we'd love for you to be involved and engaged in that conversation. We can't do this alone.
Got it. Fantastic. Thanks, Davis.
Yeah.
Have a great rest of the week.
Thank you so much, Tom. You too. And we'll talk to you soon.
Good.